A record-setting state fair is in the books. Now it's off to Husker Harvest Days. The world's largest working irrigated farm show celebrates a milestone. We'll have a preview. And while he awaits confirmation in Washington, Nebraska's ag director heads to Japan. The Nebraska State Fair didn't disappoint in 2017 with a record-setting event. Now it's off to Husker Harvest Days, the world's largest working irrigated farm show. And one person who won't be here is the state ag director. He's headed to Japan, but a date in Washington looms. As we know, Gregg may be headed to the USDA. He's been nominated by President Trump to serve as undersecretary and would oversee animal and plant health, grain inspection, also domestic and international marketing. Now must be confirmed by the U.S. Senate.
So yes, Steve, I'm very honored to be nominated by President Trump. I'm very appreciative of the support I've received from Secretary Perdue throughout the process. Also appreciate the support of Congressman Smith and Senator Fisher as well. And I look forward to serving in this new capacity if confirmed by the Senate.
has served as Nebraska Ag Director for more than a dozen years. He was named to that post by then Governor Dave Heineman. He and his wife Teresa have 3 kids now out of college and call Sumner home. Director Ibaugh joins Governor Ricketts as they visit one of Nebraska's most important trade partners. The Nebraska delegation is back in Japan 2 years after the governor last visited that country. Japanese businesses employ more than 4,000 Nebraskans, and Nebraska exports more than $1 billion in products to Japan annually. Since Nebraska's last trade mission there, beef exports have grown 31% and pork exports 32% into that country. And now comes a threat to rip up a trade deal with another important trade partner in Asia. Here's more on what's going on in South Korea. Farmers and ranchers say they're concerned with the possible change to a deal known as KORUS. Steve Nelson, president of Nebraska Farm Bureau, sent a letter to President Trump this week with his concerns. Nelson says a move like this could jeopardize farmers and ranchers here in the Cornhusker State.
About 30% of everything that we grow here in Nebraska is exported somewhere, and so exports are very, very important. If we would lose South Korea, it's a major trading partner of ours. It would be it causes some pretty significant damage to prices that are already low.
Senator Deb Fischer says solidarity with South Korea is needed, especially given North Korea's recent nuclear activity. She also sent a letter to the president urging him to maintain the agreement. And immigration comes into focus as President Trump announces plans to end the DACA program. Nebraskans rallied at the state capitol this week in support of keeping that controversial program, but many, including some in agriculture, say the program is needed. That included Gothenburg Senator Matt Williams.
This action has economic consequences. Many of the DACA youth are filling much needed positions, nurses, lawyers, workers in our state's #1 industry, the agricultural industry. That's why many of the organizations in agriculture supported.
The Nebraska cattlemen are among those who have shown support for DACA. The ag world turns its attention to Husker Harvest Days, where they have millions in improvements they'd like to do to the grounds. But first, they've got a big anniversary to celebrate. Farming has changed, but Husker Harvest Days is still the place to be.
We're still the world's largest irrigated working farm show.
And no one knows these grounds like Roger Libby. He has been part of the event 32 of its 40 years, and a customer prior to that.
I've driven equipment off this lot on Thursday afternoon after the show was over that I bought on what I used to like to call Sale Thursday. You know, people didn't want to ship them stuff back home, and if it's still sitting on their lot, you could negotiate with them a little bit.
2017 will feature new products from John Deere, New Holland, and others. Last year, Case IH was looking to the future with a driverless tractor. This year, reflecting on the past with an axial flow combine back from 1978, still getting the job done.
Which is just really cool to think about the progression that's happened in agriculture in those 40 years.
The show director says it's the largest gathering of center pivot irrigation customers in the world, plus tools to help growers manage the bottom line.
More critical now when margins are razor thin, if they exist at all, that you figure out what are the new technologies that are going to keep the farm going, move it forward to the next generation.
But bigger equipment is taxing the ground, so they're planning big improvements.
When you come to Husker Harvest Days 41 next year, it will be a facility that is built to go for the next 40 years.
And of course, Husker Harvest Days is the place to see the latest in agriculture. Major farm shows are high-tech shows these days, of course. What aspect of technology are you most interested in? Drones, data tools to improve management, or technology that saves time and labor, or precision ag tools that allow variable rate applications and the like? Log on to Twitter to cast your votes. Now to results of last week's poll question on the subject of the Farm Bill. Talks are underway, so what do you think of the current Farm Bill programs? Here are the results. We're turning the tables on the USDA, using their terms to rate the legislation that guides farm policy. Most of you think the current Farm Bill is good to fair. As always, poll results are not scientific. Winter wheat planting begins, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. The latest crop progress report shows topsoil and subsoil moisture are mostly adequate in the state. Corn rates 13% poor to very poor, 24% fair, 45% good, and 18% excellent. 97% of corn has reached the dough stage and most is now dented. Soybeans also rate mostly good to fair. Farmers watch and wait as many have finished irrigating for the season. Farmers are watching their crops to decide when they will best obtain the largest yield. Water has become the most important part of the process to maximize crop growth without drowning the crop. For central Nebraska, there has been quite an effect from storms, drought, and weeds throughout the year.
You might say, well, it's been cooler than what we normally would have at this time of year. We think that coolness is actually very helpful for helping build yield. Once we get into harvest, we'll be able to tell whether that's actually true or not.
One local farmer says his farm has already completed its final irrigation of the season, and he's happy with the results.
In regards to the crop itself, I would say that the crop looks excellent, is what our agronomists have said. And, as we see crops through our area, the crops look good. There looks to be like a good crop harvest year.
That last irrigation for farms can vary due to the maturity of the crops and when they were planted. Once the farmers figure out the right amount of water their crops need, they will then be able to finish out the year. Later, we head back to the State Fair to see the Parade of Champions. Up next, a visit with state FFA officers.